Hello, everyone. I want to quickly say a few things about Zionism. Lebanese Twitter over the past couple of days went apoplectic over a post um, on which I commented by saying that Jesus was not only Jewish and an Israelite, but he was also a Zionist. So Lebanese Twitter did not take kindly uh, to this. So I want to say a few things about Zionism just to clarify a few points. Zionism is many things. It's a galaxy of conceptions, of feelings, of um, um, impulses and political programs. Um, in our modern understanding of Zionism, it is essentially the national liberation movement of the Jewish people aimed at putting an end to Jewish exilic existence, meant at reviving and restituting and reestablishing a Jewish state in the Jewish ancestral home, in what the Jews call Eretz Israel, and what Christians call the Holy Land. So essentially, Zionism was modern Zionism, political Zionism, a political project meant to create a state for the Jews in order to end the exilic state of the Jews, the exilic status of the Jews. In its modern iterations, it is attributed to Austrian journalist Theodor Herzl. But Judaism is much older than Herzl. It is you might argue it's as old as Judaism, as an emotive notion. Dates back to the Babylonian exile and to Jews longing for Zion, praying, anticipating, hoping for a return. You see this in the Lamentations of Jeremiah. You see it in Psalm 137:4, I think, by the rivers of Babylon. We sat and wept. If I forget you, O Zion, may my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth. May my hand forget its worth, etc. So for a good part of 3,000 years, Jewish existence, Jewish history was, in a sense, a form of Zionism longing for this return, the return to Jerusalem. Zion is one of the nicknames of Jerusalem. So for 2,500 years, 3,000 years, even if as a political movement, Zionism dates back to the 19th century, Zionism as longing for Jerusalem is much older than that, and is the foundation of Jewish national history and Jewish memory and identity. At the same time, Jewish history is connected to Jewish. Jewish history is connected to Christianity, just as Christianity is connected to Jewish history, and at the same time, the story of the birth of Christianity itself belongs to Jewish history. And I think that this offended a lot of Lebanese Christians who have a very, very poor handle on the history of things. We ought to remember that although un-Jewed eventually, Christianity was nonetheless a form of Judaism initially, a transfiguration of Judaism, a sect of Judaism. Jesus himself was a Jew. He was not a Palestinian. His name was Joshua. And he never saw himself as anything except a Jew. He was not the founder of Christianity. He was not the first Christian, even though he was believed to have been the anointed one, the Mashiach, the Christos. But Jesus was a Katz, if his last name was Katz, a typical Jewish name. A modern surname. He was of a Davidic line. He was a Kohen and a Tzaddik. That's where the Katz come from. He was a rabbi. At least that's how his followers addressed him. My Lord, my Rabbi, my teacher, Rabbi, my master. If you remember the story of the Gospels, Jesus and his family returning from Passover in Jerusalem, they lose track of him. They sort of backtrack and return, and they find him in the inner sanctum of the temple debating the priests. So not only was he a Jew, but he was of Davidic descent, which allowed him to be in the inner sanctum of the temple. So until probably the coming of Paul of Tarsus, Christianity, or what we call Christianity today, was still a Jewish sect. In order to Jewish sect in the sense that so to put things simply, Jews are folks who are waiting for the Messiah. The Judeo-Christians, or the early Jewish followers of the Jesus group, were Jews who believed that the Messiah already came, and that's why they were referred to as Judeo-Christians. So they were the Jewish followers of Christos, of the Messiah who had come, Jesus. But in order for you as a Jew, to be part of the sect, you had to be a Jew, which meant that you had to follow the Mosaic law. You had to, if you're a male, you had to be circumcised. You had to observe dietary laws. You had to be a Jew. You observe the Sabbath. Even to this day, when Christians celebrate Easter, which is coming soon in a couple of weeks, they're celebrating Passover. When you speak in multiple tongues, as a Christian, speak multiple languages, a polyglot, the Pentecost has descended upon you. The Pentecost is 50 days after Easter. It is also the Jewish Shavuot, the 50 days after Passover. So this is to stress very briefly and very superficially the fact that Christianity, initially before the coming of Paul of Tarsus, Paul the Apostle, was a Jewish sect, and in order for you to become a follower of Jesus, you had to become Jewish. So we lived in an era at that time where Judaism was still a proselytizing religion. So to become a Jew, you had to observe Jewish law, and this is how you become a Christian, a follower of Jesus. So please don't get offended, okay? If it weren't for Paul, you would still be calling yourself Jews today. I'm talking to Lebanese Christians who took offense at the fact that somebody noted, just to be provocative, that Jesus not only was a Jew and an Israelite, but he was a Zionist. He was a Zionist in the sense of Zionism as believing in the sovereignty and independence of the Jewish people on their ancestral land. So don't get offended, okay? Ciao, babe.